by Minnesota's Attorney General say Potter's actions were criminally negligent. Now let's bring in criminal defense attorney and legal analyst Lou Shapiro. Lou, so much was made initially of the composition of the jury in the trial of the three men who were ultimately convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery. Now in this case, again, the jury is mostly white, 9 of the 12 members. How important do you see that being here?
Well, it's important in every trial because it cannot be ignored that the composition of a jury can definitely affect the outcome. However, given the facts of this case, I think 9 out of 10 people will tell you that they could not understand how such an egregious mistake was made by a law enforcement officer. Even though it probably was not intentional, most will say, there is still a standard, a duty of care that doesn't seem to have been met here. So I don't think in this particular case the composition of the jury is going to make that much of a difference to the outcome.
Yeah, and as you were just saying, both sides do say the shooting of Dante Wright was an accident, but the prosecution, as we mentioned earlier, says we'll argue that Kim Potter was criminally negligent. How do you see the opening statements unfolding on that note this week?
Well, we can expect the prosecution to basically echo, what you said, and also play up the fact that, this was a major tragedy now, loss of life. The emotional impact and points are certainly on the prosecutor's side. The defense is going to say that nobody is perfect. This was unintentional. This was done in a very quick, unplanned manner when people are under pressure and their life is at stake. They're going to make mistakes. And especially law enforcement officers, they need to be given a little more deference because they are putting their lives on the line. So that is the line of defense I think we'd expect to see.
Yeah, and we'll be watching that this week. Now, stay with us for a moment, Lou. We also want to ask about the parents of the accused Michigan school shooter, Jennifer and James Crumbly, who were taken into custody this weekend and entered not guilty pleas to involuntary manslaughter. Prosecutors say they were criminally negligent for the rampage. Their 15-year-old son allegedly went on Tuesday at Oxford High School, killing 4 students. Now, Lou, how unprecedented is it for parents to be charged in a school shooting of this nature? And will that ultimately make it more difficult for the prosecution?
Yes, this is extremely rare. It's starting to happen in Los Angeles, where I'm based. But in terms of across the nation, we never see this happen. So it's really sending a message, I think, especially after the Rittenhouse matter. A lot of people were saying, well, even though he was acquitted, why weren't the parents held accountable? What type of parents allows a teenager to take a gun across state lines? That was one of the arguments made. And here we have parents who were brought to the school and were said, this child has issues. He's drawing pictures that are very disturbing, very offensive, and you got to take him to get some care. This needs to be addressed. And the parents did not take him out of school that day. In fact, the prosecutor down the line is going to argue they almost encourage us by saying, don't get caught, and statements like that. So this is very unprecedented, and it might send a message for future cases that parents, you will be held accountable if your kid does stuff like this.
Yeah, another case we will be watching. Thank you for joining us, Lou Shapiro.
You got it.
Now, the school is also facing scrutiny for not taking what some say was enough action to prevent the shooting that left these 4 teenagers dead at school. In a statement this week, the superintendent of Oxford Community Schools released a statement saying, quote, in part, it's critically important to the victims, our staff, and our entire community